What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about the Micah Miller case. I have a lot to say about it. I'm going to talk about what actually happened. I'm probably going to mention a couple of conspiracy theories because some of them actually make sense. I'm going to break it down to the best of my ability. Now, this is by no means a deep dive, and if I do get something wrong, just feel free to correct me in the comment section down below. If you are new here, hi, my name is Jess. I'm a person in long-term recovery that has in fact gone to prison. If you want to follow me on any other social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, that's $2. It's only ever going to be $2. All of that is linked down below, as well as my vlog channel and my Facebook. Without further ado, let's kick this thing off. I want to shout out a TikToker. She might have YouTube too. Her name is Conspiracy. I think that she's done a really good job covering this case over on TikTok, but this has gone viral. It's gotten national attention, and now the FBI is involved. So let me tell y'all what happened for those of you who don't know and who are not caught up to speed. I'll try to remember to put a timestamp in here. I'm not very good at that. So Micah Miller was a 30-year-old former pastor's wife. She had filed for divorce days before her death. She was found in Lumber River State Park in North Carolina, which is about an hour away from where she is from in Myrtle Beach, North Carolina. She was found on April 27th with a single gunshot wound to her head after someone close by heard crying and a gunshot. A few hours later, they were able to find Micah's body. She also called 911 moments before her death, and she told law enforcement where to find her body. So for all intents and purposes, surface level, it looks pretty straightforward, right? Oh, nah, otherwise I would not be here. There's a lot of very weird things, and all eyes are on her estranged husband, I guess you would call that. She filed for divorce days before she was found, and JP Miller, her soon-to-be ex-husband, or would soon be ex-husband, he gave the weirdest sermon, and this actually led to more of an investigation because he gave the creepiest, weirdest 1-minute outro to a sermon. Apparently he gives his regular every Sunday sermon type of energy, and then the last minute of this sermon, it's very weird, and he announces Micah's death. That was just the beginning of how weird things would turn. So I'm going to play for you. We'll watch it together. I'm going to play for you this 1-minute clip of his service. This is him announcing for the first time that his wife is gone. JP gave this sermon not even 24 hours after Micah was found, by the way.
Instead, I'm going to have you stand up and I'm going to make an announcement. And after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building, please, if you can, so y'all can stand to your feet.
Why are they standing up?
Before I make the announcement, I also want to say that my request to you is that you will continue to come to church and serve and give for the next little bit, because I don't want to have, I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I don't want to have to worry about the church. My break may be a few days, a few weeks, I don't know. I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away. And it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina. And we're going to have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come. But just keep our family in your prayers, and I'm going to let Pastor Randall, my bishop.
Within the past year, Micah had filed 3 different separate support and maintenance requests, the last being on April 16th. Now, these basically allow you to get support from your spouse without being officially divorced. Now, Micah also filed for divorce in October of 2023, but for some reason, it was dismissed. In February of 2024, John Paul would file his own separate support and maintenance request, but that too was dismissed. That same month, Micah allegedly left JP and went to stay with a friend in hiding. Micah would then confide in this friend how she was suffering from SA and that JP would force her to watch him engage with other women. She also allegedly discovered that JP was using church funds for things he shouldn't have been, and in retaliation, he put her in a mental institution. She then would go on to tell this friend that she is not mentally ill, and that she has no thoughts of self-harm, and that she thinks JP would unalive her. During this time, Mica's tires would be slashed, and she would be stalked and harassed. In April of 2024, Mica filed for divorce, and on April 23rd, a notice was sent out for this hearing, with the hearing being scheduled for June. However, Mica would pass days later on April 27th.
Very bizarre, very chilling, very consistent with narcissistic abuse, in my opinion. I also want to note here that on 2 separate occasions, Mica found trackers in her vehicle. I think it's also important to mention here that JP was the, what's that called? Power of attorney. So he put her in a mental institution against her will, which that's traumatizing. And it really seemed like he wanted everyone to know and believe that she was very mentally ill and couldn't make decisions for herself. The weeks leading up to her death, she would make Facebook posts and make videos about the abuse that she endured. I think that that is really important too, because after you leave, after you file for divorce, after you start speaking your truth, that is a really dangerous time for survivors of this kind of abuse. And it's just so chilling. I also want to mention her obituary because it was written by JP and it really is just all about himself. What a good partner she was, what a good wife she was to him. Like all these things that just, she always told me that I was so great. Such a great pastor. Actually, let's read that real quick. Hold on. Micah Miller, 30, of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, passed away Saturday, April 27th, 2024. She was born March 7th of 1994. That is significant as well because there was a very large age gap between JP and Mica, and it is said that allegedly, JP groomed Mica, and they met when she was 10 years old, when she was working in the church. Mica was energetic, affirming, adventurous, faithful, loving, giving, forgiving, talented, joyous, creative, assertive, bold, determined, authoritative, passionate, hardworking, a risk taker, and so much more. I'm going to skip to the weird part of this. Mica was a great stepmother and an amazing wife and helpmate. She helped Pastor JP with church in every way. Mica was the worship leader, graphic designer, youth leader, women's ministry leader, and pastor's assistant. And she did all of this with the utmost integrity and faithfulness. Mica made the greatest of efforts to always be the best wife she could be. She truly served Jesus and her husband with all of her heart. She would praise her husband after every church service, telling him he was the best preacher in the world, even if it wasn't true. She also told him he was the funniest preacher in the world, even though that wasn't true either. This is her obituary, dude. Mica loved her family so much, which of course she did. She looked forward to every text from her father or brother. And it just, it goes on and on. It's just kind of bizarre, it's kind of fucking weird. I also want to play a video posted on March 22nd, and this was posted on Conspiratee's TikTok, but I want you guys to watch this with me as well because this is so heartbreaking that she finally had the courage to leave and file for divorce and speak her truth, and now she's gone.
Jesus took it all for you. So you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship, whether that's sexual, whether that's somebody forcing you to take illegal drugs, or alcohol abuse, or physical abuse, psychological abuse, making you think that this is all your fault, or you're a bad mom, or you're a bad wife, or you're a bad husband, or you're not giving it your all when you know you are. God hates divorce, but why? According to everybody I've asked and the scriptures that I've found, it's because it hurts people. But does abuse hurt people? How do you think God feels about that?
From all of my research, this again is just very consistent with narcissistic abuse. Like you hear that in what she's saying. She has really gone through it, and I think that JP would make her feel like she was crazy, like it was her fault, like she was mentally ill and incompetent. The timeline leading up to her death, though, it is very heartbreaking because she went to, I believe, a pawn shop it was, and she purchased a firearm, and they have video surveillance of that. They have footage of her leaving her apartment, going to get the gun, driving where she drove. She made a 911 call, and there is a single, what appears to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound that was released as her official cause of death. But people are speculating that the phone call that was made could possibly be either AI, or it could be someone is there with her and forcing her to make that phone call. There's a lot of rumors. That's literally just a rumor. That's a conspiracy. People really are having a hard time thinking that she unalived herself, because if you had the intent to take your own life, this is coming from somebody that has had unalived thoughts my whole life. Like, I don't want to die. It's just, it's a very complicated thing to try to explain to somebody. Coming from somebody that has struggled with that my whole life, it doesn't really make sense that she would file for divorce just days before she committed that act. And I'm saying that because usually leading up to something like that, it's days and days of pain after a lifetime of pain, but it really kind of comes to a head in certain moments where I don't know. I don't think that she would have paid money to file for divorce if she was planning that. Because it's just so close together. But again, I don't know her or what she was thinking. But it just seems very suspicious. I'm not saying that can't happen. It just seems very suspicious. Now, the FBI is officially involved in this case, and that is because it's, first of all, very suspicious. There are a lot of discrepancies, and it's made national attention. Everyone's talking about this case. The reason why I believe that the FBI is involved is because there's so many questionable things surrounding her death. And the FBI has a lot more resources than state and local officials have. So that would be my guess when it comes to the FBI being involved. I heard a rumor, and I'm not sure if this is true, but I heard a rumor that she paid off her taxes very shortly before she passed away. There's also some missing funds from a mission trip called Dare to Care. There's some missing money. It looks like $1,100 is missing, and allegedly the missing funds from this mission trip, the funds were credited to Micah Miller's bank account after she committed suicide. Now, was that wire transfer, did it take time to go through? I don't know. It is very weird that would happen, especially because Micah was saying that JP was using funds from the church that he shouldn't have been, and he was using them inappropriately. She alleges a lot of things that JP was doing, and I can't diagnose the man as a narcissist, but I believe every single thing that she posted about in the weeks leading up to her death. I completely believe her. In police reports, JP is documented as going into Micah Miller's apartment, trying to gain access to it, and then eventually gaining access to it. But the landlord was like, no, because she didn't like you and you're crazy. So they called law enforcement, and they documented this interaction where he goes in, gets some belongings, and leaves without incident. Her family is very on top of this, and they're doing everything that they can so that there is justice in this case. I can't imagine how disheartening it must have been to hear that the state ruled this as a suicide. That was the official cause of death. That is really disheartening. But I have hope, and I'm sure they have hope, that now the FBI is involved. Here's where things get kind of sticky. JP could be held responsible both criminally and civilly still. If you harass somebody to the point where they take their own life, you're harassing them, you're abusing them, you're threatening them, you're stalking them, you're causing them a lot of emotional distress, then you could be held accountable for their death, both criminally and civilly. I would recommend to their family, if I'm obviously not talking to their family, but I would recommend to them, and I'm sure lawyers have told them this, that they should file a wrongful death lawsuit because of the distress that JP was putting on Micah. He could be charged criminally for involuntary manslaughter, but the standard for that and for prosecuting that in a legal standpoint is much higher than the standard for a civil lawsuit in a wrongful death lawsuit. So to get somebody charged with involuntary manslaughter, a lot of elements have to happen. In a case like this, like if he was there egging her on to do it and there was evidence where he was pressuring her to take her own life, that could be, a route that the prosecutors or state attorney, now the feds, that could be a route that they go. I do see that being a very difficult thing to get him actually charged with. In terms of stalking, harassment, causing her extreme emotional duress, that could be a route that the feds could go. And we'll just have to see how that plays out. They're probably going to be trying to follow the money, because in cases like this, where there is a lot of issues going on, a financial crime is going to be very easy because you can always find the money. If you follow the money, more often than not, you're going to be able to figure out exactly what happened. Now, I'm just assuming here, but I'm assuming that the feds are going to look into every single dollar. They're going to see where money was coming in, where money was going out, what JP was doing on the financial back end of his pastor stuff and his ministry work. They're probably going to look at the money. Now, for a wrongful death lawsuit, you don't need that much evidence to go on. And from everything that she said and finding trackers on the car, even the things that JP said in his own crap that he did, she was very mentally ill and I had power of attorney. A lot of these things are very circumstantial on the legal side of it, but on the civil side of it, her family could absolutely sue him for a wrongful death lawsuit, and I believe that they would win that case. The civil side is much different than the criminal side, though. The reason why they would win on the civil side is if this shit looks suspicious and you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he caused her so much emotional duress that she ended up taking her own life, you're going to win a wrongful death lawsuit. But it's so much harder on the criminal side. I think it's really unsettling that she specifically told her family, if I am found shot in the head, I did not do that. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to take my own life. If you find me shot, he did that. And that just gives me like cold chills, because I bet, I'm assuming this, but from what I experienced, a lot of times narcissists will tell you what they're going to do. They will threaten you with things, and they will tell you what they already did by saying someone did it to them. It's how they confess to certain things. And I'm wondering if JP threatened to shoot her. And that's why she was like, guys, if I end up shot, it wasn't me. Conspiracy theorists are also wondering if maybe JP's alleged mistress dressed up like Mica and it's the mistress buying the gun. I don't know. A lot of TikTokers are saying, well, this person buying the gun looks like Mica, but her hair's different and her sweater's different from when she left the house, and there's no tattoo on her hand. So it is really freaking weird. It's really suspicious. And there's a lot of unanswered questions. If after the FBI, finishes this investigation and they still say it was a suicide, we're closing the case, JP did nothing wrong, you still can't convince me, because I know and understand very deeply how bad narcissistic abuse causes extreme trauma in our brains, especially if you have a past history of trauma and you have a co-occurring mental health disorder. So like PTSD, narcissistic abuse will make whatever mental health situation you're dealing with, it will make it 10 times worse. So even if he didn't actually pull the trigger and they rule it, a suicide, which the local officials did, if it all comes out that way in the end, still after the feds investigating, you can't convince me that he is not to blame for her death, because he obviously abused her for a long duration of time. And it was so painful for her that this ended up happening. But you cannot convince me that he had nothing to do with it. And I think he had a lot more to do with it than we actually know right now. Fuck JP. Sorry. I hate this guy. I fucking hate this guy. He gives me Chris Watts vibes. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Rest in peace, Mica. I'm going to end today's video here. As always, I love you guys. Stay safe, stay in recovery, whatever that looks like to you. If you've ever experienced anything like this, or you are experiencing something like this, I am so sorry. Please know that you are way stronger than you know. And if you eventually get the courage to leave, make sure you have a support system and you have a plan, and make sure they don't know where you are. Leaving can be dangerous, but it's so necessary, because staying is also dangerous. And from my experience, they never change. Bye, you guys.